Welcome back to Level Headed Gamer, guys. My name is Joseph. After doing my Deus Ex vs Cyberpunk video, one of my subscribers recommended to me to try out The Observer. So after beating the game, I decided to do a review on it, so you guys can see what I thought about it as well. And if you haven't seen the Deus Ex vs Cyberpunk, I'm going to link it here above so you can check it out. But without any further ado, guys, let's get in the video and let's get into the review. The Observer is a psychological horror game that takes place in a dystopian, bleak world, where people are in fear of contracting nanophage, a mysterious disease which is caused by the cybernetic body parts in people's bodies. We follow Detective Daniel Lazarski, who is contacted by his son Adam. After a cryptic message and an alarming conversation, the main protagonist decides to visit his son, which sets off a detective story that takes place predominantly in a futuristic apartment building on a quest to find out what has happened to his son. I wanted to start with the things that I enjoyed about this game. I thought the graphics were really nice, especially for an indie title, with some impressive lighting, along with an option to turn on ray tracing. The details in general are actually really nice. Every hallway, apartment, the tattoo shop you get to visit, all give off a feeling of a real tangible place. And I enjoy that lo-fi sci-fi feel of the world in general. The graphics in the game are not going to win any awards, but they accompany the visual style of the game very well. Blooper Team definitely got the cyberpunk feel down, along with some great tense music to set the mood. Honestly speaking, this is where my praise stops, because after the first initial murder scene, I realized quickly that this is not really a game as it has no real gameplay elements present. It reminds me more of Detroit Become Human or any of the Quantic Dream games, where it feels more like an interactive movie than a video game, with weaker writing and much shallower gameplay. You'll be doing three things in this game: walking and talking to citizens through peepholes of the apartments, with a very friendly clerk at the front desk of the building. You'll even get side quests on occasion from several of the tenants. Living in the building, however, none of the side quests are worth doing as they don't add anything to the diversity or plot of the game. Investigating scenes of murder in a Batman Arkham style is the second thing you're going to do, and they're all extremely familiar at this point with some very basic puzzle elements. It's sad to see that since Batman has introduced those investigation scenes, no other game has evolved on this mechanic in any meaningful way except maybe for LA Noire. The Observer is no exception. There's no thinking required from you or making any kind of deductions or putting any elements together to figure out what could have happened. You're always led by your hand to the next destination. The last thing being sneaking around, with the most unsatisfying stealth gameplay I have ever experienced. The difference that makes Detroit Become Human engaging is that you feel a threat to your character's life, and you constantly make choices that influence the world in some shape or form. You feel like something can happen to you and that there's a real danger, not to mention you actually care for the characters because they have great character development. Sadly, I can't say the same thing for The Observer, because it's an extremely guided experience where you never feel engaged because there's nothing to engage with. There's no combat, there's only one place where you make a meaningful choice in the story, and no freedom of approach. And when you stealth around, enemies are abysmally dumb and never feel like a threat, and those sections feel more like a chore than fun. So much so there's an option to skip them altogether. The characters are not very likable, nor do you care about them since we barely get to know them. The only exposition you get is through virtual interrogation akin to brain dance in Cyberpunk 2077, where our hero plugs into the brain of the victims to find out what has led them to their deaths. These sequences play out like a psychedelic drug trip with a bunch of walking. Think about Max Payne 1 and the crying baby nightmare scene. I understand the concept behind them, going through somebody's thoughts and brain can be messy and incomprehensible, but I really didn't like this unnecessarily convoluted way of telling the story, as well as it does not provide any interesting gameplay, because the main plot points in themselves are interesting, but they're marred by these virtual interrogations with these boring 20 to 30 minute gameplay sequences, again feeling completely useless until you get to the end and they give you some small piece of information about the next target you need to track down. The game is about 5 to 6 hours long, and it felt way too long. It overstays its welcome. It doesn't present any new ideas, and the story tells other games have done better. On PS5, the haptic feedback again is completely underutilized, so much so it's not even worth mentioning. The voice acting to me felt extremely stiff, especially for the main character. I even put under question why this game has been nominated for any awards at all. If you enjoy psychological thrillers, horror games, or games in the cyberpunk genre, dystopian genres, I'd recommend Control, Senua's Sacrifice, Detroit Become Human, Indigo Prophecy, Dead Space, Alan Wake, or any of the older Silent Hill games, and I can go for hours giving you suggestions. This game is a hard pass, and I personally think it's not worth your time or money, even at a price tag of $29.99. I don't mean to be so harsh, but I really tried hard to like this game, and the longer it went on, the less I enjoyed it, unfortunately. If I had to give this game a review now and give it a score, I would give it a 6.5 out of 10, and no more than that. It's mainly because I enjoyed the visual style of the game, but to me the gameplay fell short. I'm sure there's going to be some of you guys who enjoyed this game and you're going to defend it to death and you think it's great, and you know, we're all entitled to our opinion. But I honestly would not be able to recommend this game to anybody, especially being a fan of the genre. I just think we should go to another game that did it better. But guys, that's the end of my review, and if you enjoyed this kind of content, if you enjoyed the review, make sure you leave a comment down below and let me know what you thought of the game, and if there's any other game you'd like me to cover or do a review on. Make sure to subscribe down below as well, because I'm going to be releasing a lot of videos on this channel. We're going to be releasing at a minimum of 3 videos a week, and we'll cover a bunch of games, upcoming games, new games, for a long time to come. Without any ado, guys, you have a good one and peace out.